The narrator opens by explaining that none of what the audience is about to hear came out of nowhere. For years, certain figures in entertainment were surrounded by rumors that never fully surfaced, whispers that stayed confined to private conversations and industry backrooms. What's different now, the narrator explains, is pressure. Real pressure. As legal scrutiny began tightening around Diddy, people who had stayed silent for decades suddenly started talking. Names that were once mentioned only in passing began showing up repeatedly, and patterns that had been ignored started to look intentional. The narrator emphasizes that this isn't about one isolated accusation or one shocking headline. It's about a network of relationships that stretched across music, film, and elite Hollywood circles. The video frames this moment as a turning point, where the collapse of one powerful figure forced people to re-examine everyone who stood close to him. The narrator hints that some of those connections involve individuals long perceived as wholesome, enlightened, or untouchable. As the tension builds, the audience is told that what's coming isn't speculation pulled from thin air, but a compilation of accounts, timelines, and statements that suddenly feel impossible to ignore. And just as viewers begin wondering how deep this goes, the narrator signals that Diddy may have only been the most visible piece of a much larger puzzle.
There are so many surprising things in the book, but the thing that surprised me the most, that I actually had to reread it because I said, is this true?
Right.
Was that in 2016, you and Will decided that you were going to live completely separate lives.
Yes.
It was not a divorce on paper,
right,
but it was a divorce. So from the year 2016, which is 7 years ago now,
yes,
y'all have been apart.
Yeah.
Depression. So the thing about the plant medicine is that not only does it help you feel better, but it helps you solve the problems of how you got there in the first place.
It was always in my head talking, telling me what I was and what I wasn't. And for the first time, I had like a ego dissolution where I was like, that was the moment that really changed me. You get to a place in your life where you're blocked by something, whether it's a trauma, whether it's your emotions, your ego, not being able to express yourself. And then I feel like psychedelics are a way to tear down that wall and see what's beyond it. Doing it guided with people that are professionals, I feel like really increases the chances of having that mystical
The narrator then shifts focus to the idea that Diddy was never operating alone. He explains that powerful people rarely move in isolation, especially at the highest levels of entertainment. According to insiders like Gene Deal, Diddy's world was filled with other influential figures who attended the same private events, shared the same inner circles, and benefited from the same silence. The narrator carefully recounts claims that recordings are allegedly circulating, recordings that involve Diddy and another male described only as young and extremely well-known. What makes these claims unsettling isn't just the existence of the tapes, but the description of the second person involved. The narrator notes that when people began speculating about who could be considered bigger than Diddy, attention naturally shifted toward a very small list of A-list celebrities. The video stresses that no names have been confirmed, but the speculation alone has caused renewed scrutiny of long-standing friendships and alliances. The narrator underscores that this is how hidden systems unravel, not through one confession, but through overlapping accounts that start to align. As the audience processes this, the narrator hints that one couple, in particular, keeps resurfacing in these conversations, not as outsiders, but as familiar faces within the same elite environments.
You just feel like it ain't really nobody's business.
Yeah.
But now Black Twitter has claimed it as their business.
You and I were going through a very difficult time.
Yeah.
And we decided...
I was done with your ass.
Kicked me to the curb.
I was done with you.
Yeah.
Marriages have that, though. Marriages have that.
Yeah, we basically, we broke up.
And then what did you do, Jada?
Well, you know, I think from there, You know, as time went on, I got into a different kind of entanglement.
An entanglement?
Yes. Yes.
A relationship?
Yes, it was a relationship, absolutely.
So now we get into why she's even more mad. Jada would watch at the houses. She had her laptop. She would stick her hard drive in, right? Boom, and hook it up to the TV. And she could play whatever video she watching. So I'm seeing videos of her and Will and a bunch of other, some celebrities, everything. Because remember, the last interview I told you, if you don't sue me, I'm gonna let people know who you've been hitting with them dildos. And I said, if you don't sue, I'm going to sue. So I told you, being Muslim, whatever I say I'm going to do, that's what I'm going to do, period. And I got to have evidence. So she's sitting down here watching, playing with herself, high as a kite, right? Not caring who's in the house, whether kids watching, nothing. She's in her own world. So that's how I was able to see the tapes. I saw them, and I saw some things that were unreal, and I saw celebrities on the tape.
The narrator introduces the Jennifer Lopez story as one of the earliest moments that, in hindsight, feels significant. He recounts an incident described by insiders involving a private Hollywood gathering attended by Diddy, Jennifer Lopez, Will Smith, and Jada Pinkett Smith. At the time, it appeared to be nothing more than celebrity tension. However, the narrator explains that Diddy allegedly believed Will and Jada were making advances toward Jennifer Lopez, enough to make him think a confrontation might happen. The narration points out that this moment was dismissed back then as jealousy or ego, but viewed through today's lens, it raises uncomfortable questions. Why did the situation escalate so quickly? Why did it leave such a lasting impression on those present? The narrator explains that stories like this matter, not because they prove wrongdoing, but because they reveal how boundaries may have been perceived differently inside elite circles. This story, the narrator says, became one of the first puzzle pieces people revisited once broader allegations began surfacing. And just as viewers begin to question whether this behavior was isolated, the narrator pivots toward the Smiths' marriage itself, suggesting that what the public believed for years may have been far from the truth. Explains that much of the public's perception of Will and Jada's relationship was shaped by carefully managed appearances. That illusion began to crack when Jada revealed in her book that the couple had quietly separated in 2016. The narrator describes how shocking this revelation was, especially given how publicly united they appeared for years afterward. Will later explained that neither of them believed it was their responsibility to make the other happy, choosing instead to pursue fulfillment independently. The narrator emphasizes that this arrangement wasn't framed as chaos, but as growth. Still, the acknowledgement that both partners explored other relationships opened the door to widespread speculation. The narrator carefully notes that while unconventional relationships aren't crimes, the lack of boundaries described by insiders raised eyebrows. Viewers are reminded that when power, influence, and access intersect with emotional vulnerability, lines can blur quickly. The narrator ends this section by explaining that what unsettled people most wasn't what Will and Jada admitted publicly, but what others claimed happened privately. And those concerns only intensified once their children became part of the conversation.
Then there was the moment on social media. She was 13 with a 22-year-old man in her bed.
Saw that.
It's no big deal. We were just hanging, they were just hanging out. I got 3 questions to ask about that.
1.
1322, appropriate or inappropriate?
Inappropriate.
Alone, appropriate or inappropriate?
Inappropriate.
In your child's room, appropriate or inappropriate?
Definitely inappropriate.
Part B to that. In your child's room with the door closed, in the bed, half dressed.
Grab the shotgun.
On social media.
Hell no.
Who took that picture? That's
Who did?
Yeah, it's just, yeah.
We cutting off our hair.
Red flags.
We laid up with old niggas.
Yeah.
That's an old.
Yeah.
When she was born, He was probably already trying to rub one out at the park.
Oh, man.
Think about the difference in that.
The imagery.
She's 13.
Okay.
She might have a period. Might. Breasts not fully formed. Pubescent. Hair not grown all the way in.
Man.
And this thing go to a bar and buy a beer and get a bit drunk in the backseat of his car and leave her out there with $20 and say, hope you make it home. Like,
The imagery.
this, that could be his Saturday night in LA.
So,
And he's up in your daughter bed
yeah.
with his shirt off and shit, frolicking
You call it art.
on social, frolicking on social media. I mean,
So
somebody should have kicked the door in and beat that fucking ass.
What makes this worse is that the Smiths
The narrator shifts to Red Table Talk, describing how the show became a platform for deeply personal disclosures. He recounts how Jada discussed introducing her son Jaden to alternative mental health practices during her own struggle with depression. While presented as healing, critics questioned whether such experiences were appropriate for a child. The narrator explains that these concerns grew louder when Jaden later pursued legal independence from his parents at a young age. This move sparked widespread curiosity and speculation, with many asking why someone raised in extreme privilege would seek separation so early. The narrator introduces Jaguar Wright, who claimed that troubling behavior inside elite households was often normalized. She alleged that young men connected to powerful families showed visible signs of emotional distress over time. The narrator is careful to frame these as allegations, but notes that repeated patterns caught the public's attention. As this section closes, viewers are left with a sense that the story may extend far beyond unconventional parenting, leading directly to accusations that refuse to fade. Then introduces Bilal, a former associate whose claims intensified the controversy. He describes Bilal's statements about witnessing explicit material allegedly stored on hard drives inside Jada's home. According to Bilal, these devices contained recordings involving multiple individuals, including celebrities. The narrator explains that Bilal publicly challenged Jada, claiming that if she did not pursue legal action against him, he would take matters into his own hands. When no lawsuit followed, Bilal filed his own and later left the United States. The narration becomes tense as Bilal recounts a frightening incident overseas involving surveillance, intimidation, and a violent car crash that left him seriously injured. While no direct evidence has been publicly verified, the narrator emphasizes that Bilal insists these events were not random. The section ends with the narrator reminding viewers that throughout history, whistleblowers often face pressure long before the public hears their stories. And with Diddy now behind bars, the narrator hints that the silence surrounding these claims may finally be breaking.
Bunch of guys with two guys with black pants and white shirt, Scientologist outfits, right? Not saying they're Scientologists, who knows, right? And then there was another guy who I found out to be a private investigator, and they were by my house. So I told him to drive past, right? So he drove past, he parked. And I'm like, damn, why are they in front of my house? But the crazy thing before that, somebody sent a picture of the front of my door in my apartment and texted to me from a number, right? With nothing. So I put two to two together. I'm like, damn, they might be out to get me, right? So we're driving one afternoon, and while we're driving through that afternoon, a car pulled up with a guy with a mask on, right? And tries to run my boy off the road. So he's trying to not run, because in Colombia you have a lot of freeway parts, but you also have a part like there's no barriers. So you could, somebody make a wrong turn, you down there.
Because it's mountainous.
Yeah. So so the car is so my assistant trying to hitting the other car so we don't go on a barrier. So the guy put the gas on, boom, right? One of the people that I saw, even with the mask, I'm able to see it was one of the people that was at my apartment. So we rolled down the embankment, right? Glass breaking, everything. Like I could hear oh man, it was bad, right? So by the time I get myself together, I look over, my man got a big piece of glass like this stuck in his head, right? It's about this long, because the windshield broke when we was tumbling down. So finally, the police came, the ambulance came, they took me to the doctor. So now my back is messed up, I gotta have black surgery, and then my knee.
The narrator explains that as Diddy's legal situation worsened, attention began shifting outward rather than inward. Instead of focusing only on what Diddy allegedly did, people started asking who benefited from his protection, who shared his spaces, and who may have helped normalize behavior that outsiders would find alarming. The narrator describes how longtime insiders began emphasizing that Diddy's parties, trips, and private gatherings were rarely random. Invitations were controlled, trust was assumed, and silence was expected. According to these accounts, many powerful figures weren't just guests, but regular participants in the same closed-off environments. This is where Will and Jada's names continued resurfacing, not because of one accusation, but because they appeared repeatedly in overlapping timelines. The narrator stresses that these were not casual encounters, but long-standing social proximity. Decades of shared industry access meant shared knowledge, shared secrets, and shared responsibility. The video emphasizes that when people protect one another long enough, accountability becomes nearly impossible. The narrator carefully avoids declaring guilt, instead focusing on the pattern. Whenever Diddy's influence expanded, certain names were never far behind. As investigators and the public
that's being shopped around, a Diddy and another male, they say the other male is an A-list celebrity.
I would wonder if he's white or black. And if I'm looking at any black guys that are A-listers that's bigger than Diddy, there's only one that I could come up with. And there's a few I could come up with. Will Smith, he's bigger than Diddy. I would think Nick Cannon is bigger than Diddy. Who else on the black that are black actors or black in the business that's an A-lister that's bigger than Diddy, that's black? That's hard to think. But then if you got the A-listers, you know, you got to realize he ran with that black, that Rat Pack. And I don't want to even say their names, because they said I got their names wrong last time. What's his name? Kushner? What's the other guy? Leonardo? Yeah, his name. Man, I don't keep up with these cats. But I heard that that's not only the tape that's being shot. There's some other tapes out there of other people too with him.
He'll feel too embarrassed to file his lawsuit against Diddy for what Will and Diddy did to him. With Jaden and Justin present, that tape exists. Okay. I really hope none of that baby oil was used on those kids. That would just be in bad taste. Baby oil on babies.
You can't say that the flavor camp was sponsored by Johnson & Johnson. You just come on. Come on.
Starting to sound that way, ain't it? all that talent, and and she let Charlie tune that boy up on coke, knowing that he was bipolar and had ADHD. What kind of mother would do that to her son? Turn him into a so you could pretend to be something more than what you are, which is nothing more than a Philly whore. You're a whore. You're a bigger whore than they're making your son out to be, that's for sure. Because he didn't have no choice. You was down by all. I'm sorry. The Bashir conversation for me is not easy. Because I came to Belial and I asked Belial to help me save the kids, and all he was worried about was his book.
Under his protection and influence.
As far as Will Smith is concerned, until he does right by all of those children that were harmed and corrupted while in his care, children that grew up to be men, boys like Bashir Gray, August Alsina, your own son. Like, your own son. Do people forget about that voice clip that I played from Brother Belial?
Hey.
Has anybody seen Belial?
Come on.
I asked him, didn't I ask for him last year?
Come on.
Where's Belial? Is he missing with Cuba? Have they all moved to Bali with Russell Simmons and Kevin Liles?
Will didn't act on his own emotions. She said he laughed at the joke like everyone else. What changed everything was Jada's reaction.
No, something didn't make him snap anything. He laughed at that bad joke that Chris said like everybody else. And then Jada looked at him and it was like the Manchurian Candidate.
Not the Manchurian. Not the Manchurian.
That's what the happened.
I thought there's a legion of women who said, I'm glad for Will fighting for his woman.
Yeah, because they still want to believe that that sham of a marriage is real.
Oh. Well, there you go.
He ain't never gonna be Tupac, and she proved it when she August Alsina.
Period. God damn it.
Throughout the discussion, Jaguar keeps circling back to the same point. This